Microfinance once considered the silver bullet that would make poverty a thing of the past. In 2005, the United Nations Secretary General Kofi Annan said it was a critical anti-poverty tool, emancipating women and empowering the poor in their communities. But instead, microfinance has imploded in a vortex of tales of ruinous interest rates and borrower suicides. With me now is Dr Kamal Munir from Cambridge Judge Business School, a leading professor of social change and stability and consultant for the World Bank. Well, Dr Munir, there were such high hopes for microfinance, but 5 years on, why is it said to have disappointed the developing world?
So how did we get from the ultimate panacea for global poverty alleviation to what we see now? I think at least three things happened. As we scaled up and donor money dried up, more private capital came in looking for returns on this. Now, it is one thing to engage in rhetoric suggesting that everyone, all poor women in the world are entrepreneurs, but quite another to actually make them so. The mortality rate among small businesses is particularly high, so it was never really going to succeed. So one thing was, during scaling up, as subsidies went away, as operations got bigger, the whole thing simply transformed into what we call minimalist microfinance. Another thing was mission drift. Very quickly, people realized that the poorest were not always the most credit-worthy people. So they shifted from the poorest to what they called poor. So the average loan size in this industry has been gradually going up.
Microfinance has received a lot of criticism for imposing debt, with some people even going as far as to say that some institutions are profiting from the ignorance of the poor. Well, surely this is just about institutions profiting from some of the world's poorest people.
A majority of the assets that are being held in this industry are being held by banks now, who are looking for profits. The costs do tend to be high. If you are going to give out a loan to, let's say, 10 people, and the loan size is £100,000 each, you only have 10 people to process. Now you could be dividing that amongst 1,000 people, then the processing cost goes up. So the operational costs in microfinance do tend to be high, but still they should not be more than 10 to 15% of the cost of funds. What we see is much more than that, which actually falls into loan sharking, which means that we are in a territory where people are making profits off the back of the poorest, the most vulnerable, needy people in society.
One of the most contentious areas of microfinance is the level of interest on the loans, as we just spoke about. So what happens if they can't pay?
What is supposed to happen is that they will be denied a loan in the next cycle, or there will be peer pressure exerted by the group, because it's all based on group lending. What happens is, in order to escape that kind of pressure and in order to sort of, retain my social capital, I will go out and try to borrow from, the village feudal lord or the money lender or somebody else in the village. And what often happens is that slowly I will exhaust all the different sources from whom I can borrow, or I will borrow on a short-term basis from someone at very high interest rates, and I will get into a vicious cycle of debt.
Do you think the microfinance concept then can be revisited to work better?
If we are looking for poverty alleviation, we should know that so far the impact on poverty has been zero, of microfinance. And secondly, where poverty has been alleviated, has it been alleviated because of microfinance, the success of microfinance, or has it been alleviated because of other reasons? So for example, the alternative could be job creation. Countries that have pulled themselves out of poverty have done so by industrializing, by creating jobs. And the logic is simple to grasp, right? Because let's say I give out one loan of £100,000 to one person who sets up a stitching center or a factory to make garments and so on, and employs 500 women there as stitchers. On the other hand, I give out loans of $200 each to, let's say, 500 women or something like that. Now, which venture do you think has a higher probability of success?
Well, finally, are there better alternatives to microfinance for the world's poor?
Micro enterprises normally are businesses that help somebody survive, if that. and they do not generate employment, and they don't produce enough retained earnings which can be reinvested in the business and the business can be grown. So I think we would be much better off focusing on small and medium-sized enterprises.
Dr. Munir, thank you.
Thank you very much.